Hello everybody and welcome back to the Fantasy Football Fix YouTube channel. My name's FPL Phillips and it's that time of the week where it's Eddie versus the algorithm, but because of the spread out game week 21, we're going to be taking a delve into the wildcard teams of both the algorithm of myself, projecting over the next foreseeable weeks. For the algorithm, I think that's about 5. For me, of course, with my human brain, I'm able to look more long term, but it's the same old Eddie versus the computer you know and love, just instead of the free hit, we're going to be taking a look this week at both the wildcard teams put together by the algorithm and by myself. So without any further ado, let's jump into things, shall we? And of course, there is some breaking news really from last night with AFCON and all this still going on that Mohamed Salah has picked up a bit of an injury. At the time of recording, I'm yet to see what the repercussions of that are going to be, whether he's going to return from AFCON to Liverpool sooner, what even type of period he'll be out for. So for now, we're just kind of going to have to assume that Salah's going to be out for a relatively decent amount of time, basically. But I don't think it would have affected really, given that he would have been away for a couple of game weeks anyway, what these teams look like. So we'll first off have a look at the algorithm team. It's predicted 65 points this game week, and just a little flex, we've put in the score so far this season in the series that I am still beating the algorithm by a margin of 5 game weeks. Let's see if the algorithm can put together a better wildcard draft than my own, though. We're not going to add it up over the next however many game weeks, because you could argue this wildcard has repercussions all the way until game week 38, but you guys can just be the judges down below in the comments if you so please, and I suppose we could come back to it and have a look in a few game weeks' time at whose does better. But in goal for the algorithm is going to be Alisson Becker, which I think is a bit of a bold choice, to be honest. We have got a lot of funds at the moment with, Haaland not being available, Salah going off to AFCON. Most of us, have a lot of money in the bank, whether we will save that or invest it into an area where there are some great budget options at the moment, of course, being in goal. Alisson Becker, to be honest, for me, is always a little bit of a waste. If I want Liverpool assets, I tend to want the alpha ones. You want your Trent, you want your Salah, and then, to be honest, I then want to leave one open for another player to come in. So Alisson's never really been historically a great pick of my own. I've been bitten by expensive goalkeepers in the past, going for Ederson, etc. So doesn't tend to be my strategy. But of course, the computer does not take emotion into account. And yeah, taking on Chelsea next, not the easiest fixture in the world, but Liverpool don't have the worst of runs, I suppose, in the next few game weeks. In defence, we're going to see a back four this week. It's Trent Alexander-Arnold, who, of course, we've got the injury all about at the moment, so a bit of a bold one there too. Anderson and Mitchell then doubling up on the Crystal Palace defence, which I think is interesting. And Estupinian, who is my favourite pick of the bunch. Right now, I think there are probably better defences to invest in than Crystal Palace. They've got a nice fixture this week, albeit against Sheffield United. But a double up, I think, is just going too far, especially. Anderson's not the cheapest defender in the world too, and he has been great at points this season, don't get me wrong, especially earlier in the game mix, and I think he is the best asset of that Palace back line that you can pick. I just don't think he's really the route to go at the moment, and with so many attacking fullbacks in the game with relatively cheap prices on their heads, I think there are just better avenues that you can take. Estupinian, however, is one I do really like and one that would definitely be in my wildcard team. Brighton have some really nice fixtures coming up. He's coming back from injury. We know how attacking, getting forward he can be, and Brighton, might start keeping some clean sheets as well, which they haven't been doing for the majority of the season. But with these nice fixtures, they're king in FPL, and that's why Estupinian would definitely be in my side. In midfield, we're going to see a midfield three of Foden, Saka, and Willian. So a very, very bold punt from the algorithm in here, going for Willian. Not really looks at him too much myself, truth be told. If you guys are somewhat convinced by Willian for any reason, let me know down below in the comments. But yeah, he's in this midfield alongside Phil Foden and Bukayo Saka. So one would assume, it would be a bit stupid to put him on the bench, no space for Kevin De Bruyne in this algorithm side. One thing I do think is that maybe, De Bruyne coming back, he's only played a number of minutes, and that's probably going to put the algorithm off going for him, even if it looks like he might start in game week 22. So I'm able to take that kind of a punt, bit of a spoiler for my team, but the algorithm has swayed away from going for Kevin De Bruyne, has instead opted for Phil Foden, whose minutes could be a little bit under threat with the Champions League, with Haaland returning, with a lot of the forward options, Jeremy Doku, for example, returning for Manchester City now. Maybe Foden might see some minutes reduced or instead expended in the Champions League. So that's not looking good for Foden too much at the moment, but for the short term, he might be all right. Bukayo Saka is one that I do like. He's still that expensive price tag, but with Arsenal having some nice fixtures coming up, he is still probably the best attacker to own from the Gunners in my view. And then finally, up front, we're going to see some of the obvious picks, I'm assuming. Yeah, we've got Ollie Watkins, we've got Julian Alvarez, and then Erling Haaland. So 3 really good striking options there. Alvarez as a placeholder for Haaland is probably going to be my preferred strategy, truth be told. And I'll just be saving money in the bank to upgrade Alvarez to Haaland once the Norwegian does return to action. So the algorithm jumping in early with the Haaland, with the captaincy as well. Vice captaincy's actually on Trent. I'm not sure what's going on there, truth be told. But yeah, a bit of a mare for the algorithm, to be honest, for this week. It's not looking that great, and I'm feeling confident in my draft now seeing this. But Watkins and Alvarez as a duo, I really do like. And Villa has some really nice fixtures coming up, despite facing Newcastle in the next game week. On the bench, we've got Anthony Gordon, Cole Palmer, who has to be a lock, and then Trippier. So a bit of money spent there. Maybe the algorithm is not considering saving cash in the bank as much and has just expended it. In fact, it will just expend it on expensive players if Trippier has a higher predicted points value, even if it's 0.1 more than someone like, I don't know, Gusto or Pedro Porro. It's going to spend that bit more because it's not considering saving money in the bank to bring assets back in down the line, such as Salah, or maybe even upgrading to a De Bruyne in midfield if available. So yeah, despite still having some money left over in the bank, I really don't rate that. Trippier, not a pick to go for at the moment in my view. Gordon, again, probably not one that I'm going to opt for, but Palmer is one that I really do like, as we'll see with my team now. And we'll go through this a little bit quicker. In goal for me, I've got Areola, and down on the bench, I'm going to have Neto. They're the 2 keepers that I went for on my Gameweek 20 wildcard, and I'm still feeling relatively confident in that duo. I like how their fixtures rotate. I like how both teams have been performing over the last kind of 10 game weeks or so. So yeah, Areola and Neto from West Ham and Bournemouth, I still like that as a duo. You could easily go for Dubravka, don't get me wrong, and I think that does save a little bit of that money, of course, but it's quite a minimal difference. And Areola and Dubravka, Areola versus Neto, it's quite a tough call. Just go with what you fancy, I suppose. But Dubravka is another good option, of course. In defence, I'm going to have Walker alongside Pedro Porro and Estupiñán. I think just 3 of the best defenders you can own, probably the 3 best if Trent is out right now. Porro continues to deliver, continues to provide attacking returns as well, despite the lack of clean sheets from Spurs. But they're going to have even more assets returning. James Maddison, Kulusevski returning to action. So you can only assume that even with Heung-min Son off at the Asia Cup, that they're going to be in some decent form for this next run of fixtures. Kyle Walker is then just the one to go for from Man City, getting a serious number of minutes this season. And yeah, he's just got some nice fixtures coming up. The one to go for me. And we've already talked about Estupiñán, so I won't go on about him anymore. In midfield, we've got Saka and then De Bruyne, who's taken my captain's armband for this game week, Richarlison and Eze. So Richarlison just seems to be one to own at the moment, playing up front, still getting a lot of chances. He is managing to put quite a few of them away as well and getting quite a decent amount of returns. He's a player that I've mentioned before does seem to thrive on confidence, and with that seeming relatively high at the moment, I think that Richarlison is a good pick to go for. Saka, then, we've already discussed. De Bruyne is just De Bruyne. If he's fit, available, and looking like he might start, he is just one to own at the moment, and the premium midfielder of choice with Salah out for however long it ends up being. And then Eze is kind of my punt right now. We've not even seen him feature in Game Week 21 yet as I record this, but Sheffield United up next on penalties for Crystal Palace. He's the one to go for me, and I do have another midfield option on the bench that I'm quite fond of as well. Up front, we've got Alvarez and Watkins, who we've already discussed, alongside João Pedro. With that Brighton fixture run that we talked about with Estupiñán, I think that having João Pedro at 5.5 million on penalties, getting a lot of chances, getting a lot of minutes, he's definitely looks like a great pick for me, and it helps have an enabler up front to save the money to upgrade back to Erling Haaland from Julian Alvarez down the line. On the bench, we've got Cole Palmer, who I'm reluctantly benching this game week. Definitely get me wrong, only 2 game weeks ago, benching Cole Palmer seemed a very silly decision, so could come back to bite me again. with this side, prospective draft. I'm not actually wildcarding for as a disclaimer. Then we've got Gabriel and Gustavs. Between Gabriel and going for maybe an Aston Villa defender, but, you know, with the fullbacks not seeming that great, it was probably going to be Concert out of all the Villa ones. And Gabriel looked like a decent pick. And Gusto is just one of those cheap options. You could go for a Villa defender over Gusto, I suppose, with the Chelsea fixtures looking rather tough coming up. But Gusto just saves money, enabler, down there on the bench, cheap defender who's starting right now. And I don't think we're going to see Reece James back fit for a decent while, which is rather sad, actually. Cole Palmer, yeah, as mentioned, on penalties kind of has to be in the team, and Neto, who we already discussed as well. So those are the two teams, Eddie and the algorithm. Let me know which wildcard draft you prefer down below in the comments. The series will be back as usual next week, so make sure to subscribe if you'd like to see that and follow along with the series, and leave a thumbs up if you did enjoy the video as always. Thank you very much for tuning in, guys, and I hope you have a good rest of your day. I'll see you soon. Goodbye.